Welcome, Dr. Gupta, to the Root of Our Health. Thank you so much for being here. Such a pleasure.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Why don't we just dive right in? Because I want my listeners and me really to understand a little bit more about you. So, if you could tell us a little bit about your background, your story, and how you got here.
Sure. So I grew up in Houston, Texas, to this immigrant family living this life where inside of our home was very Indian, and then outside of our home, we were operating just the new American lifestyle that my parents were encountering and experiencing. And what was cool was growing up, as soon as my parents were successful, which was pretty quickly, we were able to start going back to India and see my family. And so then it became really obvious that, like, when I'm here and I'm an American kid in Texas, if I get a scrape or a burn, we deal with it one way. Or if I catch a cold, we just run to the drugstore, which back then was called Eckerd's. Now it's called CVS. And then when I was in India, it was completely different. Like, my grandma would just reach for turmeric and cook it on the stove and give it to us on a spoon. Or she'd make these really weird, stinky teas out of spices. There's one called hingapani that would like fix every stomach issue of life. And so I always grew up looking at this like, hey, like one person has one toolkit, another has another, and I don't understand. And I grew up with a lot of juxtapositions. I went to like religious schools. So I was studying like both religions at once. And my mind always likes to understand where's the both and? Like, where do we find the similarities, not the opposites of these things? And so eventually I had all my own health illnesses. I was always seasick, airsick, car sick, everything sick. And I realized I needed to find a way to build my own immune system that worked. And that all led me down this road. By the time I was in college, I realized, wow, no one else has this constitution I have. I'm the only sick kid here. And I took, when we were in India one time, I told my parents, can we go find a way to heal me? Like, I need to be healed. And it can't be with antibiotics. Like, we've done that one 100 times. Let's put that tool down and go find something. And when I went on this journey with Ayurveda, I was like, wow, there's an entire system of medicine and health and healing in India. It's over 5,000 years old. It uses all these different tools. And I got completely healed from it. And I realized this is what I want to share with the world. This is what I'm meant to do here.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yes, thank you. And it is usually our own health journey that we tend to really want to teach others. And that obviously this podcast is about alternative health and wellness because that's generally, I believe, what we all need is an alternative out there. And I know a little bit about Ayurveda. If you want, I don't know if there's any more to Ayurveda that you've already talked about, but if you want to go into more of a description of what it is, obviously well, yeah, you just run with it. What is Ayurveda and what are the methods of it?
Sure. So Ayurveda is this entire system of health and healing from India, over 5,000 years old. It has its own ancient textbooks. And what's fascinating is those textbooks outlined all the major systems and subspecialties in Western medicine. So obstetrics and pediatrics and surgery and all those things were discussed and thought of and planned a long time ago. And so within Ayurveda, what we typically use in our toolkit is herbs, herbology, and all the solutions that come from herbs and plant medicine. We use circadian rhythm. So Ayurveda taught that circadian rhythm is the rhythm by which we live, which just means we are on nature's clock. It's not like we can control nature and make it our clock if we want to stay healthy. We teach about the doshas, or the individual mind-body constitutions that all of us have, made up of the 5 elements, and how we can leverage that to live a healthier, more inflow life. Ayurveda teaches this concept of gut health, where we all have this digestive fire within us, and managing that digestive fire is everything. It's brain health, it's mood, it's all health. So Ayurveda knew 5,000 years ago that the gut comes first for all health. And then Ayurveda also gives us a powerful self-care like toolkit that we can use to build a healthier rhythm of life and detox ourselves. And finally, Ayurveda teaches a lot about detoxing the body. So the way to bring the body into alignment with body, mind, and spirit, which is the goal, is to live a truly preventive lifestyle. And one way to live preventively is to detox annually and seasonally and live according to nature's clock, which is the seasons.
Amazing. I mean, this is something that, well, truly, in essence, so we talk about the circadian rhythm. This is something that has been actually a lot of doctors, well, I shouldn't say doctors, but a lot of scientists and alternative doctors, functional medicine doctors also talk about is we need to basically go to bed when it's dark, wake up when it's light, or have that to be our time clock or our alarm clock. We get up and we brush and we either stay up until midnight, 2 3, whatever it is, and we don't, then we wonder why we're so tired. So that's one point. And then the other thing that you touched on, and I'll get to the third point in just a second, but the gut. I mean, that is exactly, again, so it's kind of like in a line with functional medicine because we were all gut specific as well. There's a gut brain connection, but everything resides in the gut because most of our immune system resides in the gut. So it's amazing that Ayurveda 5,000 years ago in India is really probably the pioneer of all of the medicine, or the approach, excuse me,
Yeah.
to what's going on now in terms of trying to get away from conventional medicine. So that's amazing. And then number three, which I have a little bit more of context in, are the doshas.
Right.
So I took the quiz on your website, the dosha quiz, and you know what? Well, you don't know me much, but I'm sure my audience will know which one once you go through them. But I'm a pitta,
Hmm. Yeah, I can get
and
that.
in front and I through and through, it was like, oh yes, oh yes, yeah, that totally, I get it. Yep, that's me to the T. And it was understood. I realized that yes, knowing that and knowing why I take ashwagandha
Yes.
is why I need to be more balanced. And so I'm not going to go into more of myself, but I would love for you to kind of be give us a little bit more context or description of what the doshas are and what they mean, and obviously yeah, what we can do to kind of put ourselves in balance.
Sure. So the Ayurveda concept of doshas is really beautiful because it helps us gain more self-understanding. So it's just like taking any quiz about ourselves where we're like, what career do you think I'd be good at? Or what is my human design according to astrology? What is my nature? And so Ayurveda telling us that data point on ourselves can be very powerful because it's a combination of nature's elements. So the five elements, according to Ayurveda, are air, ether, earth, water, and fire. And so we take those and break them up. And there's three doshas. There's vata, pitta, and kapha. People pronounce them vata, pitta, and kapha. I I just am not used to saying them that way, but I like to say it once that way. So people are like, yeah, she's talking about the same thing we're talking about. So the Vata dosha people are made up of air and ether. And so air and ether, if you can imagine, that element is like a ceiling fan. It's like constant motion. And so the body characteristics of Vata is thin and wiry, long face, thin bones, those kinds of physical traits. Their emotional state is more like a busybody. They tend towards anxiety. They are just in motion all the time, like an energizer bunny. They tend to be very creative, artistic as well, which is really cool that they have all this artistic capacity to create things. Sometimes they can be thought of as flakes, though, because they keep running to the next thing and don't necessarily finish the things that they start. And so the tendencies of Vata people is to have poor sleep because they have like really disturbed sleep, poor digestion, all sorts of issues there with digestion, anxiety, and that kind of thing. And so we have an entire like list of things you give to a Vata person to really ground them and put them onto a circadian clock and put them into a rhythm so that then they can be grounded enough to finish what they start and feel more successful and whole and nourished as opposed to so frenetic. Then you have the pitta dosha. That's in the middle. So it's a pitta person's more medium bodied. They're not thin and wiry. They're not heavy and heavy set or bigger boned. They're in the middle. And a pitta person has a tendency towards early graying hair or reddish skin. A lot of us are just like red reddish people in general. We have very healthy, I'm a pitta. We have very healthy digestion, robust digestion to the point that we get hangry. So we have to like eat and drink on time, or else the world doesn't want to know you because you switch from being so nice to really horrible people. I know that personally. I'm like a very can't function. Even today, I didn't have a meal in the middle, and I was like, food.
Yep.
Like there's no other thought other than food.
Hmm.
So pitta people can tend to have these fiery traits. It's the element of fire with some water. So everything fiery comes out in the pitta. It's going to be we have explosive personalities. We get angry, we erupt, we get ignited. And in a positive way, we're very driven, very ambitious. We can focus and like zero in towards a goal and go headlong towards goals. So the health issues that tend to exist in a pitta are like heartburn, overburn, inflammation, like anything fire related. And so our job is to cool it down. Like know that we are a nuclear reactor who must be managed or else there's meltdowns. And so there's a lot of tools Ayurveda gives us with foods and drinks and elixirs and herbal supplements like ashwagandha to keep you cool and calm so we don't erupt on our close people. And then the third dosha is called kapha. And the kapha people, as we pronounce it here, are more like heavy set, strong, big boned of the earth. This is someone with big round eyes, big curly hair, like luscious, thick, oily hair. This is someone who is very one thing at a time, one thought at a time. They may talk a little bit more slowly. They're very of the earth. Their archetype is kind of like caregiver, mother nature, takes care of everyone, like a grandma type of vibe. And the drawbacks that Guffa suffers with is slower metabolism. They tend to, once they're sitting, they can't get themselves back up and going. And so, really understanding your nature when you're Guffa, honoring oneself and seeing all the beauty in Guffa, because without Guffas, we would not have the world we have now. And understanding how to get yourself moving and move your energy as a Guffa so you have a productive day and then you shut down for the night is very important. So those are the three doshas. And I like to show people how to balance your own dosha, how to balance back to your dosha from birth if you're imbalanced in this time, how to feel more like yourself in your body. Because if you don't feel like yourself, a lot of times it's because of a dosha imbalance. And then, from a health standpoint, we look at every health issue as what's your dosha? Because we can usually tell where that health issue is coming from based on the dosha of the person.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly, again, like you said in the beginning, we all like to take quizzes to see really where we lie in life and in jobs and in everything. And this is another tool in our toolbox to understand really how we can get in balance because we can, I mean, I'm speaking for myself, but I'm sure that you can relate. You definitely go off the rails, and it's like sometimes we just go 180 in 2 seconds. And how then do we just step back and really get into a balance so that this way we can perform the way we need to? So amazing. And so you said that there are you list foods and ways and different things in order to get us in balance. So I will put the link in. Well, it's on your website, but I'll definitely put the link in the show notes so that this way everybody could go and see what their dosha is. And yeah, yeah, amazing,
Yeah.
amazing. So, there is something else that you have on your website, and it is a supplement line called Fusionary, Formulas.
Yeah.
So, how did this supplement line come about? Like, what's the origin of it?
Sure. So I come from a really strong business family. And my family growing up, every time I went to India, I would see that my grandparents, like a lot of why we were going to India, is my grandparents were so sick. Like they had worked so hard, done so much for their family and their kids. And then all of a sudden, like 60 to 80 years old, if they lasted that long, was horrible. It was all medical care, quadruple bypass, Parkinson's, stroke, leg amputation, every advanced stage of diabetes. And so growing up through middle school, high school, and into college, I was like, wow, okay. So here's our life plan. We're all going to work really hard in school. We're going to get these jobs. We're going to work really hard at our jobs. We're going to sacrifice everything for our kids. And then all of a sudden, at the end of this journey, we're just going to be in hospitals getting dissected. Like, what is that? You guys, this is not a good life plan. And so I looked at my parents and I was like, you guys are sending me to business school, but I feel like I'm being sent to the slaughterhouse. Like, I don't understand what's happening. And you guys need to prevent diabetes. Like, what's happening? So growing up, when I went to college, I went to business school. And when I got there, I learned about something called social entrepreneurship. And I was like, oh, okay. There can be this idea in the world that we're meant to create things that change the world. And also, like, this holistic mindset that even as we create beautiful things for the world, we can take care of ourselves too on the way. And so that was really the ethos from which, when I graduated college, I was like, okay, I'm going to start an Ayurvedic spa and I'm going to change the world and it's going to be amazing. So I just went on my journey, as all entrepreneurs do. The health spa idea did not work out after I worked at Canyon Ranch. I was like, I want this. And then it's a little hard to get a spa off the ground at age 23. So I went into products. I was building an Ayurvedic oil company, couldn't get the right oil. And then all of a sudden, I was doing my master's in Ayurvedic sciences because I really wanted to write books to change the world. That, like, I'm a pitta with a vata mind a little bit. I get these creative ideas all the time annually. And so I wrote a book on Ayurvedic pregnancy called The Conscious Pregnancy. And my advisor at the time was like, look, you should get a PhD. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, no, really, like, you want to write more books? If you're Dr. Shivani, they'll listen to you even more. And I was like, okay, that's tempting. And so I was going to do it on pregnancy because I'm very passionate about when we're pregnant, we're birthing the next generations of this world. And the current way we're doing it in the West is a little rough. I think we don't take full care of ourselves and we kind of run at that birth room at 200 miles an hour, expect no birth traumas, and then we expect angels to come out the other side. And then when they're not angelic, we get really angry. And so I really wanted to build Zen babies. So anyway, continue on. And I did my PhD on turmeric, the spice. And my advisor had asked me, if it's not pregnancy, what's your second favorite thing? I was like, my second favorite thing is turmeric. And he's like, okay, let's go with it. So for years, I sat on my couch and read thousands of scientific studies on turmeric. I love turmeric. I became this evangelist of turmeric. And my family was like, if you're going to literally say everything on earth can be solved with turmeric, you should probably make your own. And I was like, oh, but who builds a supplement company? Like, that's insane. It would probably take me a decade to figure out how to do it. But magically, of course, fate, all the amazing right partners came in and the right factory and the right people. And I was able to formulate a turmeric. By that time, we're talking about like 2014. I was able to formulate a turmeric. And my goal was, after reading all that science, I wanted to prove to Western medicine that they could offer a turmeric that was so potent and so clean, they didn't have to give us NSAIDs and so many drugs. Because every time I got hurt, I was like, oh, I threw out my back and I had to take all the stuff. I got plantar fasciitis, I had to take all the stuff. And then I'd get stomach aches after. And so I said, okay, I'm just going to go out there to create something. And if I can create it, amazing. And if I can't, all right, I learned my lesson. But that was like the wishful thinking, blue-eyed, bushy-tailed optimist in me who was like, I'm just going to try to prove my point. And if I prove my point, awesome. If not, I won't do it. And I was able to prove my point in the first year. So I've just done the same thing since then because we're winning at replacing painkillers. And to me, that's a big deal because people like me need solutions that are not going to give us side effects like hurt our stomach. So that was the whole birthing of Fusionary, is that like journey towards it.
Nice, nice. Yeah, it's amazing. And sometimes you have to go through those ups and downs, right? To understand really where your path lies. You have to kind of try new things. Okay, that didn't work. Let's pivot. Let's try this. Okay, well, maybe I'll take a little bit of that and put it in here. And then it's like a voila kind of thing that just kind of happens and you're running with it, right? You're still doing this company. So one thing I want to say though, in kind of going along with the turmeric route, that to me, yes, alongside ashwagandha, it is the thing to take. And I tell my clients exactly, like, I think I had a client that had plantar fasciitis, but more he took it for his knees
Yeah.
because he had knee issues.
Yeah.
And he said it worked. And I'm like, there you go. Like, and so every time I hear some people saying, well, I need cortical shots or I need or cortisone, excuse me, shots, and I need all of these different medications just because of either joint issues. I look them in the face and I say it's inflammation,
Right.
inflammation, and there's one cure for that:
Yep.
turmeric.
So you're a true believer like me.
I am a evangelist along with you. So
Yeah. That's
I have
awesome.
it. I have the powder. I have the organic powder, and I use that in some cooking. I do the turmeric tea.
Awesome.
I don't have it every day. I don't have it every day, but then again, it's when I know that I need it, but usually, I'll just put it in some meals that I have.
Sure.
It is just like, I don't know. It's a lifesaver. So
It is.
I,
Yeah.
I I'm so glad that you made this line with it, because it is powerful. It is definitely very powerful.
Yeah, and the thing that I like to share with people is it's so multi-beneficial. So when we look at superfoods like salmon and spinach and blueberries, we're like, oh my gosh, I have to eat my superfoods. But if we looked at the Indian kitchen, we have all the super spices right in our little spice cabinet, and they're also very potent. So when we're taking superfoods, we're usually taking them because they're anti-inflammatory and antioxidant. And when
Right.
it comes to turmeric, the spice, it is not only a very powerful anti-inflammatory, we know that it can stop joint pain and chronic joint pain. People who want their knees, their back, their hands to stay functioning, they all take turmeric and call me and say, wow, like I am pain free, thank you. Or I'm nearly pain free. You've reduced that pain significantly. Then it's a powerful antioxidant. So not only does it reduce oxidation, it goes after the things that are oxidating us, causing oxidative stress, and shuts those down. So it's like a preventive. And we know oxidation's like that rust that's aging us. And then it's a powerful immune modulator. So antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral, which to me was most important because I really need this immune system that has a defense system. And what most people don't know is out of the entire turmeric plant, only 3% is the curcuminoids. And so we have the most science that shows that the curcuminoids are the most powerful anti inflammatory aspect of the entire turmeric. So it's so important that when you take your turmeric, if you're already healthy and you eat this like anti inflammatory diet and you sleep beautifully and all the good things, then turmeric, the spice, will do it for you because it is still very good. But most people I meet are so inflamed that they need to take the extract to get that higher dosage. And so I give the extract at the right potency, at the highest potency, at the right ratios to give an exact result. Like that's what I'm seeking is to prove that with third party testing, making it in the West, no ingredients from China, all from India, that we can like deliver a result so exact that physicians can replace what they're offering us with a natural solution.
Nice. Yeah, I thank you for explaining that because I never really knew the difference between turmeric and curcumin. I thought it was like interchangeably, and it kind of is, but it isn't. There is a curcumin is the more powerful part of that spice. So, I heard that you have to put black pepper
Yes.
on it in order for it to yeah,
Absorb.
can you absorb it? Yeah, can you explain the reason?
Sure. So curcumin and turmeric actually is not so well absorbed by the body. It's an awesome plant, it does a lot. But in any Indian kitchen, you have turmeric and you have garam masala. Garam masala, our other spice, already has black pepper in it, which increases the absorption of turmeric by 2000%. And or you can use a healthy fat. So all of our cooking, we start with the base of oil before we add our cumin seeds and hing and everything. So inherently, any dish would have had fat. And that's why when people take turmeric tea, turmeric lattes, it's so important that you're adding the black pepper or a healthy fat, that you're not doing a skinny latte, adding turmeric and saying, oh, I'm getting my turmeric. No, it's not absorbing. And the
Yeah.
thing is, in the future, I know we will publish more science on non curcuminoid turmeric. That will come down the line out of that 97%. There's still some great stuff in there. And so in my formula, I still added the regular turmeric back in to the extract. So you have like that synergistic effect of the two coming together.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so is there any other thing that you offer in your supplement line? Can you go into detail about that?
Sure. So we're most well known for the turmeric just because I'm like the turmeric girl and I'm obsessed.
Yeah,
So I have turmeric gold and inflammation relief. Those are my two that everyone takes for chronic joint pain and things like that, inflammation, autoimmune. But then I realized if we're inflamed, oftentimes we're not sleeping well because we're in pain or we're not sleeping well, which is causing the inflammation. So I was like, let me fix their sleep. So I developed a deep sleep tea with ashwagandha in it because ashwagandha is insane. I would do a PhD on ashwagandha next if everyone would
nice.
just let me be a nerd and study, but I'm not allowed. I have to like do something. So I promise you, I'm going to dive much deeper into ashwagandha.
When
It
you
is,
do, please share with
we
me
can
because
nerd out
we'll
together.
nerd out together.
It's amazing. Ashwagandha is like this powerhouse adaptogen. If you're anxious and stressed, it brings you down. If you're depressed and have the blues, it brings you up. If you're just a crazy pitta like we are, you just, instead of going nuts, you can just focus. Like you can just be at peace and focus on all your dreams instead of being so all over the place. But I made two sleep things, the sleep tea and the sleep formula. And the sleep formula is sublingual. So if people tend to wake up in the middle of the night, they can take it then, or they can just take as much as they need for sleep. And then the last cool thing that I've made that I love is the menopause tea because menopause and perimenopause is driving everybody crazy. And I was like, let me try to see if I can make functional teas that are as effective as supplements using the adaptogenic herbs. And so that one is shatavari. We pronounce it shatavari, but shatavari with 3 types of tulsi. And so it's very cooling and calming to women going through those phases.
Amazing.
Yeah. I have so much
Nice.
fun.
Yeah, that's and you most of my audience, and if not me in the near future, would love to have something to kind of go coincide and help us with the perimenopause and the menopause. I have some friends who are going through it, and so I'll definitely direct them to you because yeah, we definitely need any help that we can get in that time. So
I,
amazing.
yeah.
Um, so so your supplements, are they tested, bioavailable? If you can talk a little bit about that and yeah, just talk about how bioavailable they are.
Sure. So in the supplement world, there's every different range of quality. A lot of people say, look, you can buy turmeric anywhere. I can buy it at the big box retailer, and I do. I'm like, that's great. I could buy all my supplements there too, between the vitamin D and vitamin A and all the things I need to take. But I'm very discerning about quality. Just like we have grades of quality in food and levels of fashion designers and quality in clothes, in anything, we have quality differences that exist. And so for me, I know that I'm meant to change the world with turmeric and I'm meant to change how Western medicine approaches pain. That's it. That's like my life journey. So I built something with just those things in mind. I didn't actually think about the metrics. And normally, when a business would build a supplement, we have normally in my sector very good multiples. So you can source an ingredient out of China or anywhere else for pennies, stuff it in a pill, sell it on the market. Nobody would be the wiser unless something really bad happened to somebody, then there would be some awareness. But there are also doctors level supplement companies that are built for functional medicine and for Western medicine. And we have to provide a result, or the doctors would just throw the product out of the office because they don't
Mm.
want their patients wasting time and money, and they don't want their patients complaining to them either. And so, with that ethos, when I built Fusionary, I, of course, added the black pepper for the absorption. I sourced a curcumin out of South India that's so potent. They standardize at 95%, but they reach for like 98%. So no matter what, they're above the 95% mark. So usually my curcumin's at a 98% grade potency. And we are testing third-party testing, to your point, so that we know that there's no petrochemicals or anything used in there to inflate those numbers. Because there's a lot of games you can play with ingredients nowadays.
Yeah.
And I'm learning more and more year after year. And I've done this for 8 years and I'm still learning. So I think it's really about who can you trust, who's like a family owned business who actually cares, as opposed to most of the supplement sector has been bought out by like multinational companies abroad. And so, how can I trust that your product made to be as cheap as possible is going to do well inside my body? So, I'm very careful and I'm always looking at different supplement companies in the doctor market. And I'm like, okay, I'm trying your D and I'm going to see, did it work or not? And I'm trying your Omega. Did you change my numbers or not? Then I trust those companies. And so, I always tell people, try it for a month. And then you tell me if mine is better, because I'll know for sure. You'll call me on the 800 number and I'll get to hear. And I love that about practitioners like you, because you get that feel for what is working for patients and what's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, always having that third party testing, but in general, especially you know, people that come from an origin that made the spice and made all the herbs and everything, coming from that, you're like the first source,
Right.
so you know exactly what is snake oil and what isn't.
Right.
And that's important. That's definitely important, because there is like an abundance of supplement companies out there, but again, it's just knowing your source, knowing where it's coming from and how it's being put in the bottle, and that's it. Awesome.
Exactly. Exactly. Even like Shilajit, for example, amazing ingredient. I need to go meet the farmers. Like I need to know with 100% certainty where that is coming out of before I bottle it and give it to someone. Even ashwagandha. I am testing multiple ashwagandhas right now
Yeah.
because I will not produce one until I know that, like, without a doubt we're delivering the result. Like I need to feel it. Otherwise, why would I make it, you know?
Yeah. And to that point, I'm gonna be, completely transparent. I've gone through multiple different brands.
Me too.
And I'm sticking with one brand right now, only because I do feel so. There are there are a couple that I do feel the difference, and I do feel when I am off of it,
Yeah.
I feel the difference. But there are a couple that I'm just like, yeah, I'm still feeling anxious, and I'm still feeling like this isn't working. I'm basically like buying something for me to just pee it out. Like this isn't working.
Yeah.
So I obviously stopped. So obvious, and also you have to understand what you pay for, you get, right?
Yeah.
So just because it seems like a good buy,
Right.
yeah, don't trust that. So I, especially for something like this, the other ones are vitamin D3
Yeah.
and magnesium. Those three are my go-to that I will, and B vitamins, just because. But all of those are my every single day. I can't I can't be without them.
Correct.
I need them. So, and for rightfully so, everybody, I think, does need vitamin D, does need magnesium.
Yeah.
And practically, I will say this,
Bees.
everybody needs ashwagandha and turmeric and
I
curcumin.
know. I agree.
I'm saying this
I think
because
turmeric is like the multivitamin.
the exactly.
Like the multivitamin that you need.
Yes.
And what's interesting about ashwagandha, one year I put ashwagandha into turmeric gold because I have the same belief you do. I was like, if we
Yeah.
all had ashwagandha, we'd all be nicer humans. Like this would be great.
Yes.
And when I did that, a portion of the entire Fusionary customer base called me and yelled at me. And I was like, what, guys, what's your problem? And it was all the most pitta, it's interesting, type A women were like, you made me too calm. I can't be that calm. I was like, that's what you
I
needed,
can't
lady.
be that calm.
Yeah, they're like, you're
I
just
mean,
very
I
sleepy.
get having the type A, I get having the fire, but
Yeah,
when you're stressed out and can't function, or either, yelling at people and
right.
irritable, yeah, no, that's not you. That's the balance. You
I
just
know.
mentioned the balance right there. Get
I know.
this.
Isn't that funny though? Because they were just like, no. I was like, all right.
All
So you need it more
right.
than everybody, but
Exactly.
you won't go into that mode. You need to stay in like this mode of chaos. Okay. So I
Yeah.
pulled it out of the product, but it was just funny.
Did you keep a little for yourself?
No, but I should
Uh,
have. But now I'm going to build a pure ashwagandha formula because I
okay.
really do think that 90% of us need it on a daily basis, since we know
Yeah.
stress causes inflammation.
Yeah.
And sometimes we can't control all the stressors of our lives. There's a lot going on. If you're a parent, if you're an entrepreneur, whatever you are, work life. So if ashwagandha is there on board, it's protecting you from stress, just like turmeric will protect you from stress and inflammation. So really, like you said, both are like that daily required thing. So yeah, until I build one. whichever one you're taking, I'll try that one too. Like I think we all need great ashwagandha on board. Yeah.
I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. Dr. Gupta, is there any question that I didn't ask that you would love to talk about or discuss at this time?
Sure. So I love also teaching about Ayurvedic self care as much as I am about turmeric and the spices. And yes, I built the supplements and I love them because they impact. I also want everyone to remember that part of self care and taking care of self is putting self care rituals in place. And Ayurveda has a lot of great ones. I encourage you to look them up. We teach about oil pulling and dry brushing and tongue scraping and daily self care massage and doing either morning rituals, which is very powerful, or even taking them all into the evening before bedtime can be a very powerful way to give yourself better sleep, nurture yourself and your soul and your body so that you get like the health and the vibrancy that you want to have in life.
Awesome. Yeah, I have to be right there with you. Self-care is still a stigma.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, I get that we're, as human beings, want to do, especially women. I'm just going to call women out here because, obviously men have the same a little bit, but women want to do things for everybody else. They're caretakers, they're mothers, they're serving. It's just all about other people. And I've noticed myself in times where I'm giving myself more and I'm exhausted
Yeah.
and I have no time for I kid you not, I wrote on my to-do board for this week, 1 hour of self-care. I have to put it on my to-do board
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's just we have to, in order for us to fill other cups, our cup has to be full as well. And if it's depleted, and that's again where all of this ties in, where the ashwagandha, where the curcumin, all of that ties in, is because when we are run down, when our adrenals are depleted and we're run down, we can't be any help to anybody else, including ourselves.
Correct.
So yeah, I thank you for teaching that and understanding that we still need this. We still
Yeah.
need this.
Otherwise, we're
Oh,
driving on an empty tank. And I do
yeah.
find that as a mom, my whole brain is frameworked to them first. Then the impact and work I have comes within the framework of mom. And then it's like everyone else, and then I'm last. I'm like that
Yeah.
tiniest sliver. And that there's so much problems there because if we're last, we're exhausted or depleted. There's nothing in the tank. Sometimes I can't even get up to do Ayurvedic self care rituals at night. I am so tired. Like I just need to crawl into bed and humans need to stop talking to me. And and it sucks because you're like, well, what about that thriving life that we want with self care and feeling awesome? And so the minute I find myself going in those cycles, I'm like, oh, you need to pause. You need to go walk in nature. You need to sleep perfectly on time and put yourself back on your track because otherwise, exactly what you said, we have nothing left to give. And so that's the biggest thing I do is I show women how we can actually put that mask from the airplane on ourselves first, do such profound self-care that we feel epic, and then all of life around us is way more epic because we feel like our most whole selves. So that's what I get really excited about from Ayurveda.
Yeah. Yeah. And feeling epic is definitely key. It's definitely number one on my book. So amazing. Thank you so much. And before I get to the last question, which I usually ask all my guests, where can people find you? I know that yeah, and if you can explain more where people can get your supplement company or supplements and everything like that.
Perfect. Yes. So my website is shivanigupta.com, Shivani Gupta.com, and it's at dr.shivanigupta on Instagram and all the social channels. And the supplements are Fusionary Formulas, so Fusionary formulas.com and Instagram and all the socials. And my podcast is Fusionary Health, so any of those places.
Awesome. Awesome. And we do have a code
Yes.
for our listeners. And so when you do go on Fusionary Formulas and get your wonderful, wonderful supplements, if you could put Root Health, ROOT Health at the end, and it's 20% off, correct?
15% off for them.
Sorry, excuse me, 15%. That's right. Sorry, I wrote down much. So 15% off, and yeah, that you'll definitely love them. Definitely love them. So thank you so much. And last question is, what is a favorite quote or any words of inspiration that you can give all of us?
You know, Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote a quote, and it's been my favorite quote since like elementary school. But it is to have changed one life or to have helped one life breathed easier is a life well lived. I'm paraphrasing it, but that's the sentiment of that quote is like just to help one person breathe easier. That is a life well lived. And I've always loved that quote because it feels like I always wanted to help people around me. I've always wanted people to be healthy. That's just been this feeling I've grown up with. And so that's my favorite quote.
I didn't know he said that. But
I'll send you
that's,
the actual quote.
yes. Yeah. Well, either way, it does speak volumes. So that's a great quote. And thank you for ending this wonderful conversation with that, because it is, I think, something we all need to understand is helping others. And again, I think I'm taking it as breathe easy, meaning like living life easy and calm.
Exactly.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Gupta, for being here. It's just been a wonderful conversation, and love that you brought some knowledge and insight into Ayurveda. So amazing. And thank you to my audience for being here and showing up. And until next time, you are worth it.